Let's take a look at multiplying decimals. Let's start with an example that we can kind of visualize. What if we had a question that asked for three groups of 1.5? Well, if you think of 1.5 as $1.50, if you had three groups of $1.50, you're really doing multiplication is really a way of going repeated addition. So if I had $1.50 plus $1.50 plus $1.50, and I were to add those up, I would get a total of $4.50. So we know we need to get, if we have um, three groups of 1.5, we should get 4.5 out of the answer. How do we do that? Well, 3 times 5 is 15. Let's use a different color. So 3 times 5 is 15. We'll put one group up here. Three groups of 10s is 30, plus one more is 4. Now I get the answer of 45. I wish to have the answer of 4.5. But if you notice that in our question, there's a decimal jump there. If I apply that a decimal jump here, I get exactly the same answer. So let's use that when we're multiplying decimals. Suppose that we have the decimal 2.3 and I wish to multiply it by 4.6. So I have 2.3 groups of 4.6. My brain seems to work much better if I put if I rearrange this so that I have one on top of the other. And so here I have three. I can tell just by looking at the question, multiplication question. If I look at these numbers, I can tell there's 1, 2. My answer is going to have two decimal jumps in it. Let's find out. 3 times 6, 18, 13. Let's put an X as a placeholder. Sometimes people like to put a 0 in by the X instead. 2 times 6 being 12, and 8, 9. And then we'll add, and so we know that 4.6 is kind of like close to 5, and let's say 2.3 is like 2. Two groups of 5 is 10. So I know my answer is supposed to be close to 10, but I get 10.58. Remember the two decimal jumps we talked about. 1, 2. There we go. 4.6 times 2.3 is 10.58. Now, sometimes we get situations where we have um, positives and negatives. So if we have negative 3.6 and I'm going to multiply it by 4.2, I can do the same thing I did previously, but before I begin, I know something about my answer. I know my answer will be negative. I know this because a negative times a positive gives me a negative. I also know that my answer will have two decimal jumps in it because there's a decimal jump here and a decimal jump here. If you use this strategy to predict what your answer is before you start the question, it's a good way to check to see if you're in the ballpark when you've completed the arithmetic.